friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shay, and today we're going to talk about all the wonderful things that I read in the month of February. In February, I read 13 books for a total of 5,497 pages. Now, this is the most pages I read in a month, even dating back to all of 2023. So I am starting out 2024 fantastically. Let's talk about some of the goals that I met. I read 3 sequels, 2 self-published works, and 4 of my own books. So yay for me. Now let's go ahead and get into my wrap-up, where I will go from my lowest rated book to my highest rated book. I did have one DNF this month, which I will talk about first. The one DNF I had was Columbus Day by Craig Allenson. So this is a self-published sci-fi novel. I think that this is perfect, and it probably fits a lot of people perfectly, but it just did not align very well with my particular taste. It is following a post-apocalyptic world that has been invaded by aliens. It's certainly a very, not a very unique storyline, but a unique way in telling the storyline, which happens to be a lot of humor. And the reason why is that humor just didn't hit home with me. So I did DNF it pretty early on when I realized that that humorous tone was not for me. But this is a very popular series on in the self-pub community, and so if you like sci-fi, if you like humor, I think this may be the book for you. The reason it put me off is because I just read Old Man's War by John Scalzi, and I feel like they both have similar vibes. In Columbus Day, our main character is going off into space to fight these aliens, right? And so in Old Man's War, you also have that. So I just read them a little bit too close together. They both have humor in them, so I think that ultimately also led to my DNFing of that story. Coming in at number 13 is going to be Neon Gods by Katie Robert, which I gave a very generous 2 stars. I read a lot of romances this month that were, because it was the language of love, and I can say that this was bad. So this book has over 200,000 ratings on Goodreads. So people really love this book. I'm not trying to yuck anybody else's yum, but this is like if you were to watch an adult movie in book form. Now, I personally don't care for my romances like that. This was a Hades and Persephone retelling, where we have Hades, who is in this other world, and we have Persephone, who her mother has kind of made a deal to marry her off to Zeus. She doesn't want that. She runs away. She crosses the barrier into Hades' land. We can imagine what is going to occur in this story. So I give it a very generous 2 stars, but if I'm being honest with myself, I probably could have given it 1 star. But that's just how I really feel. Coming in at number 12 is going to be Twisted Love by Anna Huang. Now, this book is also 2 stars. It's a slightly better above Neon Gods. This was, again, an adult movie in book form. It is following our main character, who is this meek, mild girl, and who falls in love with her brother's best friend, who is this alpha male. And I never watched Shades of Grey. I never read Shades of Grey, and this is what I imagine Shades of Grey would be. A total of a lot of BDSM and all of that, and I didn't like the characters. I didn't like the story. I thought it was unrealistic. I did finish it because it's like a car crash. We just want to know what happens, right? But I'm not saying that I enjoyed myself. But again, I'm not going to yuck anybody's yum. This is also super duper popular, especially in the TikTok fandom. More power to ya. Coming in at number 11 is another very widely beloved romance series. That's going to be Mile High by Liz Tomforde. Is that how you say her name? Tomforde? I understand why people like this story. I like long stories, but if I'm going to have a book that's 500, 600 pages, then I want a lot of it to be build up. I want a lot of it to be slow burn, and then we're getting together right there at the end. So all this angst and tension and stuff. But in this novel, we have our main character who, one, is a very famous hockey star, and of course this other girl who is not like other girls. So I did not like our female main character at all. I don't like the fact that she's not like other girls. I hate that trope. Like, let me tell you about why this girl is different from every other girl in the world. Of course, she has every little quirky thing about her. Of course, she shops at the thrift store. Of course, she's not skinny. Of course, she doesn't wear makeup. Of course, you know, just let's bang it in your head that this is not like, you know, other girls. And then you have our main male character, which I didn't love. And then they're together by the first 20% of the story, and then I'm like, okay, well, what are the other 400 pages in the book going to be? I don't know. I didn't care for it. I didn't like it. The third act conflict was nothing new. It happens a lot of times in famous people romances, and I just didn't get along with the characters. I may continue on in the series, but this was just not one for me. It also had a lot of spicy times in it, so if you like that, by all means, go for it. Coming in at number 10 is the Sunbearer Trials by Aiden Thomas. So I pulled this out of my jar and I read it because I owned it. Now, I did not like The Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas, but I actually enjoyed this a lot better. I did end up giving it 3 stars. Mile High was also 3 stars. This was a 3-star. There is once every 10 years a ceremony that takes place where these people are picked to take place in this competition. The winner of the competition and the loser of the competition have a lot to do with each other. So the loser, I believe, of the competition has to get sacrificed by the winner of the competition, and this is so that their planet, their sun, can be fed and continue to shine and provide life for the citizens. And our main character right here, he is a god, but he's a lowly god, and like, what are the odds that he's gonna get picked for these Sunbearer Trials? What are the odds that he's gonna have to compete? Because there's this whole school of gods that have trained their entire life for that, and he has not. He's just gone to a regular school and gone about his business. However, he winds up getting picked. So we see kind of his take on the trials and what happens to him in these trials. This is a duology, I believe, and the second book is out later this year. I liked it. I thought it was okay. I do think that it read a little young YA. So like YA age range to me is like 12 to 17. This read more in the 12, 13 age range than more older YA. I do think that the only thing that was off-putting about this book, and I'm going to say this word, YouTube is going to hate me, but I'm going to say this word, and that's that, you know, out of nowhere, like, Aiden Thomas liked the word titties. So he said titties a lot in this book, which like completely pulled me out of the story. Not that I'm opposed to that word, but it's like, here's this little 12 to 13 year old kind of book that reads like 12 to 13 year old book, and then we have titties, titties, titties. Just saying. Coming in at number 9 is going to be Your Shadow Half Remains by Sunny Moraine. I enjoyed this. This was a horror novella. This is following this post-apocalyptic world because if you look at somebody, you automatically get very, very angry and you want to kill somebody. So it is likened to Bird Box because, you know, these people have to wear a blindfold so they cannot interact or see or lock eyes with anyone. And so, of course, we have our main character. She lives by herself, lives alone, and then we have this guy that she meets on the road who supposedly has just moved in next door, and then you have their interactions. And I overall enjoyed the plot, but I just don't think that there was anything new, particularly, that it brought to the genre, so I wound up giving it 3 stars. Then we have a disappointment for sure, and that's going to be The Tyranny of Faith by Richard Swan. I read this for my sequel. I loved book 1. I didn't necessarily like the plot, but I could get down with the plot, but I really, really loved these characters. And in Tyranny of Faith, I just felt like there was a departure of the character work, and the plot, you know, was just okay for me. But what made book 1 was the characters, and in here, I just felt like they weren't as strong. So overall, I gave this a 3 stars. I do plan on continuing on. I still, you know, like some of these characters, but I'm not rushing around to finish the series. Coming in at number 7, we have All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover, and this book basically shows a marriage, a broken marriage, and how to fix this broken marriage, or can it be fixed? So we're following, I feel like to talk about this a lot is spoilery. The thing is that a lot of people, you know, gripe on Colleen Hoover. This is the start of my 4-star reads, by the way. And I think that a lot of she does is hard-hitting topics, and I also like that in romance. This is definitely a hard-hitting topics that will mean more to someone who is married for sure. So we are following this love story of them in the past falling in love, getting all the happy feels, and in the present day where their marriage is falling apart. So I really enjoyed that aspect. I enjoyed how it ended, and call me a sucker, but I really liked this one. Coming in at number 6 is Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. This is my first book by her. I am interested in her previous works, but I really liked this one. I think I drew this out of my jars, yes, and I overall really liked this. This is a YA fantasy novel about a girl. Of course, there's going to be a love story, but a girl that is cursed, and her brothers have been cursed. Her brothers have been turned into cranes, and she has a bucket over her head, and she can't talk about her curse, tell anybody about it, ask for help, whatever. Or, you know, something very, very bad is going to happen to her brothers. And so I really, really liked the kind of way she's trying to break the curse and the really familial bond that we have with her and her brothers. There is a romance in here, but I don't think it was very heavy-handed. Overall, I really, really enjoyed these characters and enjoyed this work. And this is also a duology, which the second book is already out, so I plan on continuing on soon. Then we have, in number 5, is Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands. So this is his second book in the Emily Wilde series, and I really liked this one. I liked this one better than the first one. I don't know why that is, because I feel like they both have very similar vibes, but I felt the first one was a little bit more on the boring, cozy side, whereas this one I kind of already knew the characters. I didn't have to get to know them. I knew the characters. It started off really quick paced, really fast paced, and I liked that versus us being really slow and getting to know the world and the characters. So I overall really enjoyed this one and highly anticipate the next book in the series. Coming in at number 4 is The Boyfriend Candidate by Ashley Winstead. I've read some thrillers of hers, and I decided to pick this up on a whim because, hello, it was a romance February. So this is following basically this girl who has been dumped and cheated on. And she goes to this hotel bar with the thoughts that I'm going to pick up a man, right? And she does try to go pick up a man, and they go up to this hotel room, and while they're in the midst of about to, you know, have fun, the fire alarm goes off, and they have to rush out of the building, and she hurts her ankle on the way down, so he has to pick her up. He has to carry her out of the building, and of course when they're carrying her out of the building, a lot of flashes are going on because it turns out that he's a politician and he is running for governor. So then it comes into a situation where now that he has been caught with this woman, they have to fake date. And so I liked this. It was very cozy. It was very sweet. I do recommend not the audiobook. I don't know what it was, but the audiobook narrator that did the male voice in this grated on my nerves. He sounded like a country bumpkin and just way out there. So I wouldn't recommend the audiobook, but I do recommend this book, and I gave it 4 stars. Coming in at number 3 is another romance, another hyped romance, and that's going to be Happy Place by Emily Henry. So I either love Emily Henry or I hate Emily Henry, and Happy Place I loved because, again, we are following a couple that is in trouble. Normally, I don't like second chance romances. I really don't, but we are kind of flashing back to how they first met and are in love and why things fell apart. They have broken up. They were engaged and they have broken up, and she is going down for this trip with her friends, and she is so excited, and when she gets there, her ex-fiance is there in attendance, and nobody knows that they broke up. And she was planning on telling her friends during this trip, but now what are they going to do? Because their friends announced that they're going to get married, and that's why they have brought everybody together. So of course they don't want to ruin the marriage, so they have to pretend to still be together. And I just loved these two. I love these two together. Now necessarily I don't think that the conflict of why these two broke up is stellar, but overall I really just enjoyed the way Emily Henry tells her stories. I also just enjoy her characters. So A+, Emily Henry, it got 4 stars from me. Then coming in at number 2 is An Emperor's Gamble, and that is the 3rd book in the Legend of Tal series by J.D.L. Roselle, and I really enjoyed my time in the series. I can't talk much about it. Book 1 is following this boy who has this farm mentor, and they're not really what they say they are, and they have to go on adventures, and I really enjoyed my time. I enjoyed my time with this, And so I have one more book before that series is concluded, but I think there's going to be more series based in this world, so I'm very, very excited for that. Coming in at number 1, which is a very, very shocking surprise from me, but I read this book as part of the Spiffbo 9 challenge. I'm trying to read all of the finalists. Spiffbo 9, it stands for Self-Published Fantasy Blog Off, which is hosted by Mark Lawrence, where 300 self-published fantasy books put their hat in the ring, and we are now down to 10 finalists, and this is one of the finalists, and I am planning on reading them all. I've already read 5. I have a vlog up on the channel. This other vlog will be coming sometime soon, and that's going to be Master of Void by Wendy Raven. This is a YA fantasy. I loved this world. I loved these characters. This is basically the setup of the story is we're following 2 boys. We're in a world where some people have magic and some people don't. We're following Ormond, who is a boy in this very high society. His brothers are up there, they have magic. His dad is very, very up in society, so when he goes to test to see if he has magic, sadly he does not, and so he basically gets looked down upon in society, looked down upon by his family, and he runs away. And then we're following our other main character, Daramund, who misses his magic test because his father was trapped in the mines, and so while he goes and he's begging people, please save my dad, please save my dad, he blacks out, and then everybody says that his magic came to fruition and he saved the miners. But the thing is you have to take your test exactly on your 13th birthday, and he misses it because he is busy saving his dad, the miners, and he doesn't wake up for a few days, so he misses that magic test. And so every time he tries to do magic, since they say that he saved all these miners, there's nothing that happens. And so he is trying to beg them to let him take the magic test so he can go to magical school. There is a magical school in this, and some things occur between these people, and there's lots of other characters in the story. I absolutely love this. I think when Raven's character work completely shines. Was there clunkiness in the story? Sure. Were there parts that were kind of slow moving? Sure. But overall, I was really invested. I was really invested in this plot, and I was really invested in these characters. And so I'm going to say that I gave this one 4 stars. I waffled between a 4 and a 5. And this book lives rent-free in my head. So I want to say that it's a 5. I haven't quite said I'm going to give it a full 5. But I really, really enjoyed this story. It is a little bit of a chunker, and I did read this physically with my eyeballs, but I liked it. I liked it, and I highly, highly, highly recommend for a YA fantasy if you're into that. Okay. That's all I read in February. I'm very, very happy with the way that 2024 is going. What did you guys read in February? What were your favorite books? What were your least favorite books? Have you read any of the books that I read? In March, we're going to get back to reading more fantasy. I do dabble in romance every now and then, but February I was just doing a lot of it because it was the month of love. So I decided to try some things that I normally don't read. But in March, we're getting back to fantasy. Alright, what goals did you guys hit in the month of February? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.